Shanan. Nice to meet you. Welcome to join this interview with us. I'm Sophia.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So how's the campaign going?
Well, it started on Sunday, and I was really lucky to have the support of our local members and of the Labour Party to choose me as the candidate to continue what we thought was the momentum of last year's general election. We ran a 5-month campaign, and it was a very, very strong, active, energetic campaign, and we came in with 13,000 votes for me. So we ran such a great campaign that we took the margin from almost 10,000 votes down to 6,200. And that's a big chunk for a 5-month campaign. We have continued that since the general election. We've had the Prime Minister in the area, and we've continued to campaign and had planned to continue to campaign up until 2020. The by-election's here now, and we have another campaign to run. We're excited about it, and we're going to work really, really hard with our volunteers and our supporters. And I'm familiar in the area, so people know me now after the last election, and that's what I bring, is a really strong local voice to Northcote. I want to represent us. The diversity of our community is significant, and I believe that I reflect our people there. I've lived in the area for 7 years now. I bought my first home. We have the largest number of 30 to 45-year-olds than any other electorate in the country. And that's me. I turn 36 next week. And, there's more and more of us young professionals that have moved into the area. Well, the number one difference is that I have lived for a number of years in Northcote, and Dan hasn't. He lives in Epsom and stood for Pakuranga. I've campaigned in the area, and on a daily basis, issues like transport we've talked about this week. I live and breathe transport on every day of my life. I travel from Birkenhead to Mangere. I sit down Ornewa Road in the traffic. I wish that I could catch the bus, but our public transport isn't ready to go from Birkenhead to Mangere yet. And, we're doing well in that space. I have local relationships with community providers. I'm active and have worked in our local schools. I see people that I know locally at the supermarket and at the petrol station. So all of that really adds to being a strong local candidate. The history of the seat is that before it was national, it was Labour. And before that it was national, and before that it was Labour. And so, I really believe that change is upon us. We've had significant population growth that means that our community is very, very diverse, and we need to be inclusive of all of our cultures that live locally. Many of them are working class. Many of them work in the city as well. And so, those are the issues that I'm about, what I stand for, and ultimately that I reflect. The purpose of change is about having the best person that represents our locals. And if you haven't lived and breathed the area, then you don't truly understand the issues that are important. We're going to campaign on transport. We're going to campaign on housing, because we know that our people are struggling for housing. We need to ensure that the right mix of affordable homes, rentable homes, and social housing is in place to meet the needs of our community. Northcote's such a beautiful place that families grow up intergenerationally there. Generation after generation, and people tell me, people my mum's age say, I want my grandchildren to live locally with me. That's what they're about. The people that I represent is a broad range. At one end of the spectrum is people that aren't employed. Part of my job is about getting those that aren't employed into education. Both in our Chinese and migrant communities. I've been an active part of that in the work that I do. At the other end, I have a bit of a corporate role. I'm the head of relationships and recruitment in the institution that I work for. That includes the marketing, communications functions. So that appeal means that I can talk to people right in Northcote Shopping Centre, within the migrant centre, right through to business leaders and CEOs that live locally and are influential in our area. Perception is that the Chinese community vote for national. And I don't believe that. What I do believe is that under the last local MP, our local Chinese community was underserved. And while there was, marketing collateral that had a Chinese flavour to it, what wasn't there was the meaningful connection with our community. And that's what I'd like to change. When I talk about wanting to spend time with our old people and our young people and with families in their homes, those are the types of conversations that I want to have with our Chinese community and any community. I want to talk to them about their aspirations for their children's education locally, because we know that that's important for our Chinese families. That employment is there, that people can afford to pay their bills and in a good way, that we are part of an inclusive society and community where we're all just one. We look different, but we all come together as Kiwis. Those are the things that matter to our Chinese community, as well as small business. We want to focus on those sorts of things, but let's not assume that the aspirations of our Chinese community are this big when actually they have very broad priorities. Yeah, but what's important to acknowledge and inform our people and communities is that Auckland Transport is doing a good job. What we've seen is that down the T2 lane, which has been contentious, is that 70% of people go via the T2 lane now, whether that be by carpooling or via public transport. What we're also seeing is an increase in the number of cycleways coming around the areas. And lastly, what I would like to encourage is some investment into our local ferries, so that people can take their car, they can take public buses, they can walk and cycle safely, and they can take the ferry if they want to. And the only way that we're going to address that is by building more homes. And that's something that the last government has really failed to do. The Northcote housing development, which you'll be familiar with, just out the back of the shops there, that was initiated when Labour was last in government. The National Party in government, they held that development for a number of years. And when we found ourselves in a housing crisis, that's when they pushed go and only started to build. Now, that was a couple of years ago now. But the reality is that development of 1,200 homes, had it continued at the time that Labour signed it off, people would be living there. Those homes would be available, and they would be affordable. The main thing I'd like to let the community know is that we will run a very strong local campaign, and that's because we believe that our local voice is important, that the issues need to be heard right from inside of our homes. That's the difference that I'm offering. I can come in and have those conversations with our old people and with our young people about what matters to them, what our schools are doing, what the aspirations for education are, what employment looks like, how we do well in our Northcote community. Those are the things that we want to know, and we don't truly understand those yet. Most of all, I'm about everyone. I love having multiple cultures, multiple people joining in the things that I do. And I'm inviting our Chinese community to be a part of the campaign, to have a voice in the campaign and let me know what your priorities are, so that we are able to advocate for those, ideally when I'm in government.